Hello, pursuers. Welcome to another episode of the Pursuit of Happiness podcast. I am your lovely podcast host, Naz Kazimi. Today, we are getting into some Housewives, which is Real Housewives of Rhode Island. We are getting into the Valley, and we are going to get into Real Housewives of Atlanta. Sorry, we missed an episode last week. We were down an episode. Like I said, life has just been a little bit hectic right now. Me and my daughter, that's who we is, plus the dog. We are getting into a lot of things right now, and we are moving yet again. So a lot of things happening. I will get into it on a personal podcast. But for now, let's get into some of the drama that kind of keeps my head at an equilibrium, because then I feel like my life doesn't have as much drama. Okay, let's start with the Valley. I also know that every time I record, there's just got to be some sound in the background. Like, no matter what microphone I get, no matter what I do, there's always some sound that's just frolicking in the background. This time it's the fridge in Mexico, because there's only one place to really sit where I can record. And the fridge is just so loud. Now, luckily, when I put it through my podcasting app, it kind of takes the background noise out. Thank God. But my apologies in advance if you can hear the fridge. It's freaking loud. Okay? Okay, I just had to stop there for a second because I close the door that my daughter's in because she plays her Roblox and whatnot when I'm recording. And I leave the dog in there for her because they're in the room with the air conditioning. And of course, the dog, as soon as I start recording and I'm complaining about the sound in the background, he starts scratching at the door. I'm like, really? Is that necessary right now, sir? Anyways, let's get into it. I want to start off first with the Valley. Okay. So we have Valley episode 2 that had come out. And it's Lala giving Sosa a birthday party, her first birthday party, which I just flabbergasted. I can't believe. I remember when she was saying that she was getting pregnant and going to the donor the sperm bank and whatnot. It just seems like it's happened so quickly. I feel like, and this is part of the reason why, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love being pregnant with my daughter because it was so special, but in general, being pregnant is just so tough. I mean, I talked about this last episode. I put out a clip on my social medias for the podcast. It's so tough because you're really not yourself, and your body, it's just so out of control. Like, typically things that you do to your body, you have so much control in, right? But there comes a time when you're pregnant, it's like you really lose full control. Like, your body's just going to do what it needs to do to have this healthy pregnancy. And it feels like it takes forever, especially towards the end. Like, you just feel like you're pregnant forever. But then once that baby comes out, I don't know, like, it's like the speed of light or something, or, like time just keeps getting faster and faster. And before you know it, like, I look at my daughter who's going to be 13 this year, and I'm like, I literally just gave birth to you yesterday. Like, I tell her all the time, I'm like, go back into my stomach right now. She's like, ew, mommy, that's so cringy and gross. And I'm like, no, like, get back in there. She's like, like, that's not even possible. But in my head, I feel like, you know what? If we tried, we could get you. No, I'm just kidding. It's just that time moves by so quickly. And I'm just like, I can't believe that now my kid is almost 13. So back to seeing Lala throw this birthday, I'm like, wow, like, Sosa's already won. And we haven't really seen them on our screens. So it's like Lala disappeared off our screens for quite some time. And now, oh my God, the fridge stopped making sounds. You're going to hear me so much more clearly. But anyways, it's so funny because the way that, like, you know how when I'm recording, I can see the spikes and like how loud my voice gets. It's like all of a sudden, like, the spikes went so much lower because there's no more background sound. That's funny. But anyways, we didn't see Lala for so long on TV, and then now we see her, and Sosa's already won. It's like, wow, the time really goes by so quick, So they're having a first birthday party for Sosa, and I understand that Lala is new on the show, and although not new to the friend. Okay, I just want to make that clear. I'm not saying that she's new to this friend group or that, she's trying to make, herself like be like the peacemaker. I'm not saying that at all. We all know that if anything, Lala is definitely not a peacemaker. She has problems of her own, like, for example, with Sheena, and I don't see no peace being made for that. And not to throw digs at her, but perhaps it could be because there's no need to. There's no TV show being recorded. And I don't want to think of both her and Sheena as this friendship duo that was only for the cameras. I believe that they were genuinely friends, considering that Sheena was her only friend when she didn't really have anybody else, So I gotta put my lip chap on here. There we go. Um, but there's the birthday, and everyone has to come. Well, not has to, or maybe perhaps they did production wise. I don't want to think fourth wall wise, but everyone comes for Lala's daughter's birthday, for Sosa's birthday, and that's nice to see. Um, we see that Lala's a lot closer to Janet. And back to Sheena. This could be because Lala and Sheena were really good friends, and Sheena was the one that started to bring Janet around. Mind you, since Sheena and Lala have had their falling out, I haven't heard really Sheena talk about Janet much, and obviously not talk about Lala at all, except for when she's kind of explaining her situation with Lala. So I'm not sure where Janet and Sheena even stand, but you can see that Lala and Janet are pretty close. So in an attempt to obviously push the storyline along a little bit more and to get them talking, Lala first approaches Nia and says, hey, are you willing to have a conversation with Janet? And, Nia, being the nice person that she is, she's in the confessional, we see her say, look, I have no intention of becoming friends with Janet. Can we be cordial in a room together? And I'm paraphrasing here, of course, but I don't really see a friendship moving forward. Okay, great. That's fine. Being cordial, perfect. Because you guys are on a show together. You're going to have to be cordial, We can't do this, especially not on season 3, where we're doing separate scenes the whole time. That's not going to work. At the end of the season, something's going to happen, whether there's a big shakeup or they just cancel the series altogether. We've seen this happen before with Jersey, with right now, Miami, with Dallas. All these shows where the cast stops getting along or they don't want to film together. And unfortunately, what happens is that they just don't film. It's that easy. There's so many other franchises that could be born out of this particular franchise not working. And for many reasons, after a few years, the cast start getting paid more. The dynamics become a little bit more heavy. So we're starting to see that, Bravo doesn't really hesitate to put franchises on pause or shows on pause if it's going to bring a lot more trouble, because there's so many other shows that are in the pipeline that could potentially be their resources spent on that to come out. And I'm just being frank here, okay? I'm just calling it as I see it. This is something that we've seen time and time again as a true diehard Bravo fan from the beginning when OC came out. I've seen this happen time and time again. I've seen Miami come and go twice now, okay? And I thought Miami was doing great. And not to digress here, but I thought Miami was doing freaking great. And then as you see what just happened, Bravo has no problem putting these shows on a pause, indefinitely or momentarily. Regardless, I think it's great that Nia and Janet wanted to have a conversation. Okay. And we're open to the idea. So, Lala did the first move and said, let's bring you guys together. Great. It's what happened during that conversation that kind of made me and I hate using this word, but made me cringe a bit. So I think, and I'm not blaming Lala, she was just trying to be a peacemaker, but Lala should have been a little bit more given direction to perhaps Janet, because she was pretty clear to Nia. She's like, hey, are you willing to have a conversation with Janet? And when she said this to Nia, and maybe I took it the same way that Nia did, it seemed like maybe Janet had something to say to Nia. Okay, great. Again, Nia's like, I'm not going to be best friends with this girl, but, we all know what she was trying to say. We're going to be filming together. We're on a show together. Let's be cordial. Let's move past this for our paycheck's sake. So Lala goes to grab Janet and says, hey, come outside. Nia's willing to have a conversation with you. Janet gets in front of Nia and she's like, is there something you wanted to say to me? Nia's like, no. Oh, okay. Well, it was great seeing you. And then she just walked away. I was like, okay, wait, hold on. That's it? That's the conversation? You just want to say hi to her? That could have been done when you walked through the door and you saw all the guests. Hey, Nia, hey, Danny, hey. You could have just done that. Am I missing something here? I thought there was a conversation to be had. Look, sometimes it sucks being the bigger person, and we've heard Janet say, I hate always being the bigger person. Listen, I'm a person that's quite reactive as well, and I've always had to be the bigger person. And now that I'm less reactive, I still have to be the bigger person. And it just depends the battles that you want to pick and choose to be the bigger person with. There's some issues that I've had with people that I don't give a hoot. I'm not being a lesser person. I just don't want to be the bigger person either. I will just leave it as is. It's fine. As is perfect. There doesn't need to be closure. I'm okay with just leaving it off how it ended or midway, whatever, because sometimes there is no end. But I thought that Janet, after asking Nia, and not because I'm taking Nia's side because I love Nia and I don't like Janet, she could have said easily, listen, I don't like how things went down last year. If you don't have anything to say, that's fine. I'm just going to say my piece. I apologize for how things went down. I apologize for using words that offended you and Danny. I want to move past this to the best that we can. We don't have to be best friends, but at least when we see each other at events, don't make it awkward for the hosts. We can be under the same roof at the same time or the same place at the same time, especially for the kids' sake. And let's just move forward from here. That would have been nice. Now, some people are going to come at me and be like, well, Nia could have said the same thing. She could have. But I believe that Nia is upset at the hands of what Janet has done. And in that case, Janet should have just been the bigger person. Janet doesn't have to freaking apologize too much, but just enough to that, they can get to a cordial place. I think that would have been nice in that moment because Nia was willing to listen. But Janet made it so fucking awkward. Everyone's mad at Janet for something, even though Janet doesn't think that what she said was wrong. Might have used a little bit of an aggressive word. I feel like when you're friends with people, you start to understand what pushes them and what doesn't. Okay, so what if Danny and allegedly, I'm saying allegedly, sexually assaulted these people? Okay? By definition, is it a sexual assault? If that's what the victim says, that's what the victim says. But Janet was not the victim in the situation. I'm going to throw out another example. It's sort of like when crimes happen to a significant race and other people get upset. It's nice that other cultures and races can be upset for example, I'm Persian. I'm from Iran. So with this whole Iran thing and the war, it's so nice to see other cultures and races sticking up for Iran. But still those people, and you can only try to understand what the other person's going through, but yet they're still not Iranian. So no one will understand what a true Iranian is going through, Same with Black people. I know Black people, I'll always support them and defend them. And when things come up, I'm like, oh, that's racist. That shouldn't have happened to them. Let's give them another chance or more grace for this. And, but I will never understand what Black people have gone through, despite me always having their backs and defending them and, et cetera, et cetera. So I digressed a bit, but same thing with Janet using words that were out of place for her to use. Danny never went to trial. He wasn't convicted or indicted. And I know indicted is the States. In Canada, we say charged with. In the States, in the United States of America, they say indicted with a charge of some sort or a criminal offense. So that's why using those words became problematic. And I understand that Janet thought that she was using the term appropriately. And by definition, you open up a book or a dictionary, yes, perhaps it was by definition correct. But this is a friend group that you're in. You are not the victim of that. And it's just troubling to see her being so triggered by it. And we still don't have any background. Like she says that she's going to therapy to see why that triggered her, why she uses words that she wants to hurt people with. Great. We also want to hear the results of that too. It's just like that thing that analogy that I always use. Don't just go on like, those couples that fight on Facebook and we see them, oh yeah, fuck this guy, fuck. We see them fighting on Facebook, but then we never see them become friends again. It's like, wait a minute, when did you guys become friends again? Because we're invested now. We want to see the breakup and the makeup and the breakup, right? So I think that's where the problem lies, I think, from being a viewer and putting myself in those shoes. I think when it comes to a friend group, and I know you're on TV and you're being honest, but there's still some boundaries. You can't just throw out such problematic names and terms because you can never get that back, and that's going to fracture friendships. And as we've seen, that's what's happened, and that's what's going on. It's one thing if you want to point out something that has happened or that has gone wrong, but now you're using words that, again, this person has not been indicted with, or charged with, or put on trial for, or convicted of, and that's where it becomes an issue. And I feel like if she just, and then that's another part of it, being an adult and being friends with people, you really have to realize how far are you willing to take certain things, and when you have to learn to keep your mouth shut. I feel like if you cross a boundary and you talk too much and you say too much, regardless of a TV show, in court, whatever. Yes, people lie in court. I don't care if you put your hand on the Bible and you say that you're not going to lie. People lie. Okay? I'm a firm believer in God, but I don't know what putting my hand on the Bible in court is going to do if the person's adamant about lying. Okay? I just find it so childish. Maybe it's my ADHD. You know how sometimes you look at things and you're like, that's so, you really think people are going to be honest? Okay? For the most part, you pray and you hope that people are going to be honest. And I say pray because, if you're using the God example, putting your hand on the Bible, saying you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, you're hoping to God that people are going to be honest. But it doesn't always work that way. And I digressed again, but what I'm trying to say is, once you pass a certain point of saying things out loud and against people that you're supposed to have friendships with, relationships with, any type of ship with, it fractures the relationship and it's never going to go back to normal. And unfortunately for this friend group, the things that Janet has said has been public, on air, not even with a conviction or indictment, just sort of throwing out these words, even though they're, let's say, by definition in the dictionary, correct. The victim themselves are not Janet. So the fact that she's writing so hard for the victims who are not even writing that hard for themselves says something. And it's not that they're not writing so hard for themselves. It's just that they've said, which was Jasmine and Melissa, we've already addressed this and we've already closed that chapter. We've moved on. So why are you here bringing back up? So I can understand why Nia would be upset, and I would understand why it would be Janet that would have to kind of make the first move here. Okay? And I can also understand how these friendships will never go back to being as close as they once were. But you can work towards a common goal, so at least your show can thrive and you guys can be in the same place at the same time. This is where I feel like Janet kind of lost the ball. So anyways, that conversation ends. And she goes and she wants to have a chat with Jasmine. And we've always been told that if you're going to apologize to someone, you apologize, but then you don't bring the buts and the ifs and the ands and this happened, that's why, blaming it on others. You take full accountability when you're ready to apologize. So it seemed like Janet was ready to apologize to Jasmine. But then she's like, do you have something that you want to tell me? And Jasmine's like, no. So now the apology that Janet just gave to Jasmine completely X's itself out, because then she goes in on Jasmine after she just apologized to her. She's like, well, now you have to know how I feel. I expect an apology too. I get that they were really good friends before, but there's fractures in this relationship now. And if Janet really wanted to apologize to Jasmine, she should have just apologized and left it there. Because a little bit down the road, Jasmine will come back and apologize for her end and what she did, or the conversation can be had another time. But if your apology was genuine, Janet, you should have just left it at the apology. That's it. Have another conversation about how Jasmine made you feel at another time, when she feels a little bit more safe around you. I feel like you have to make these people feel safe around you again so they can open up and really admit to how they got to the place that they got. But right now, no one feels safe around Janet. She throws around these big words. She gets people involved. She reopens wounds that perhaps people have closed and already dealt with when it's not her place. And so I think the best word to use is no one really feels safe around her. She claims to be people's friends, but when push comes to shove, and it has nothing to do with being on a TV show, because you just threw your friends under the bus for a TV show. Could you have not done that and done the opposite and maybe kept your mouth shut for the TV show? Like there's so many things that you could have done for the TV show. Um, but being this honest, it's actually prerogative, great, but it's now fractured relationships, and I think that you just have to be able to deal with those consequences moving forward. So, if they don't want to mend and someone doesn't want to be the bigger person, whether it's Nia and Janet or between Janet and Jasmine, then the fate of the show is in the hands of how they um behave for the rest of the season. So we shall see, I guess. Doesn't look good though. Doesn't look good. I think Kristen's another one. Kristen's a great person to be on TV, but Kristen reacting the way that she does, I mean, we didn't see it. It wasn't on camera, but if that whole thing about being at Brittany's house and she went off is true, like that's not a good look for Kristen either, considering she had a baby like off her boob. And I know the baby's too young and doesn't understand, but when it comes to the kids, maybe you can leave your problems out of it. And Kristen, of all people, should realize, yeah, we are filming a TV show. So maybe I should just kind of like buck it up for the show. You know what I mean? It's really interesting to see the dynamics now. And now that we're 3 seasons deep and people are parents now and just friendship dynamics have shifted, what people are willing to do and not do to kind of maintain what they had or to change what they have, right? So that was Sosa's birthday. Interesting. Another thing that I think is cute, but I'm not really invested in it, is the whole dynamic between Michelle and Schwartz. Like, we know that it's not going to happen. So, but I do like the budding friendship of it, And I thought for some reason, like, don't get me wrong, I love seeing Schwartz on our TV screens. I was just watching House of Villains, and he was there helping Tom Sandoval with one of the challenges. So obviously him and Tom's friendship are getting back to where it used to be. And I learned a long time ago when I was in therapy, that things never go back to the way that they were, and nor do you want it to. They go back to a better place, or they go to a better place than it was. And that's because there's an evolution of friendships, of relationships, of you through growth. And so I feel like they're going to a new place in their friendship, a place that they've never been before, a place that they've kind of like mended a lot of hurt feelings that was there. So that's really honestly nice to see. I think that they, with the type of friendship that they had, they will always get back to where they were. But sometimes certain things in life require a little bit more time, and that's okay. And I think that that's a concept that you become more okay with as you get older, and you realize that growth happens in a space where you allow it some time to kind of, like a plant, to grow, to get some air, to eat the proper food. That's just, again, I use everything with the bodybuilding metaphor. Bodybuilding, same thing. So it's really nice to see that when they come together, they're more evolved and better friends. And you're seeing a lot, again, House of Villains, they asked Schwartz to come in to help Sandoval with, I mean, obviously that helps with the ratings, but I'm pretty sure if they weren't at a good place, he would have said, I think I'm going to pass, guys. And somebody else would have came in to help Sandoval, like somebody from his, God, I forgot the group name that he's in. Gosh, forgive me. But in that group would have came, how he had that buddy that was really there for him through the whole Sandoval situation with Raquel and Ariana. But moving forward, we know that it's just for something to happen and to have like a storyline. I mean, would they be a cute couple? I think so. Everyone's making Michelle to be this like gold digger, like, no, she deserves this and she deserves. So what, Tom? So she deserves to be with a man that has all this money but treats her like shit. But Tom, who might not be as rich as most men, but is an amazing guy, can't be the one that would keep Michelle happy. Like, it's just like, Tom, are these people really your friends when they say stuff like this? I get money is an aspect of something. I'm not saying that Tom Schwartz is a poor guy either, but it makes it out like, I hear it on these different podcasts that Michelle deserves the world. Michelle is a fine wine. Michelle, we get that. But also they need to be treated with respect. A fine wine can be in the hands of a billionaire, and sometimes that billionaire is just going to take that bottle and smash it to the ground, and the wine's all over the floor. Or someone with a little bit less money, but, good heart, is going to treat that bottle of wine like gold because, like, wow, this is an expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, like, let's not make Schwartz out to be this, like, that he can't take care of women either, based on maybe what we've seen before. People grow, people evolve. We're just saying that, right? But with that being said, it's interesting to see him in the Valley, because the Valley is typically like they've moved on, they have families. Like Lala has kids, even though she's not married. Janet, I mean, we just got introduced to Janet from the Valley, but Janet has a husband and a child, and Nia and Jason and their family. Kristen with Luke and their new family with Kaya. Um, you know how the show In the City is coming out from Summer House. It's just an extension of Summer House, but them actually in real life. And that's part of the reason why Carl Radke wasn't asked to go, because they're focusing more on like families. And even though, for example, Lindsay Hubbard doesn't have a family, she still has a kid. She's going to be involved in the show, right? She's now it's like a different type of life now. You know, it's not the single life going out trying to find a husband. It's like single mom life, business entrepreneur. Like, let's get this show on the road here. But Schwartz doesn't really have a family or a wife, you know, or a marriage. So, but it's still nice to see him back on the show. And I think he can give that comic relief, and hopefully we can see him kind of get that, because I know that that's something that he really wanted. He really wants a family. He's always really wanted a family. And I think, like, you know, God's will and God's timing. It just wasn't meant to be with with Katie. And in fact, I do see Katie on, and I don't follow her, but I do see her on Instagram with her new boyfriend, and it just seems like she's found the perfect match for her. Katie's always been like the heavy metal rock kind of chick, you know, and she found a guy that has that. So I'm kind of happy that she is happy as well. You know, I'm just glad that they've gone their separate ways and kind of the hard part's over, and now they're able to finally move on with their lives, right? So that's that. The last thing that I want to talk about the Valley is I don't really care about Lacey and Jesse. I'm sorry, I don't. I'm just not interested. I just feel like it's maybe it's going to take a little bit more for me to be a little bit more invested in their relationship, but I would rather see Jesse figure out why he's so intent on having love, like where that kind of trauma stems from, because he's constantly looking to be like in a relationship and to be in love. Like, he cannot be alone. And I get, like, it's just at that point in his life, he's at the age, he has a career, so that's next. But it's like, you can also be okay alone. You don't have to just, it's like he hops from girl to girl. Like, and I knew so many people like that, and they bother me, because it's just like, why can you not be alone? So that would kind of be more interesting for me than to see him in another relationship. But again, this relationship seems like shit's gonna hit the fan. So whatever brings the ratings in, I'm here to watch. That's the Valley, you guys. It's just getting started. We'll see what the rest of the season brings. Let's get into the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Wow. That's all I gotta say. All I gotta say is a wow. I love it. I'm not sure about you guys, but I absolutely love it. Let me explain a little bit why I love it so much. Okay? These girls, just from the beginning, from the get-go, they just went in. There was no fucks given. And I've mentioned this before. It could be possibly also that, you know, they knew prior housewives, for example, like Dolores being friends with Liz. Perhaps there was a little bit of good advice given, like, hey, don't hold anything back, just get into it, etc., etc. I love it. If that was the advice that was given, I love it. I had to take notes for this one because it's just so jam-packed with information. Let's start from the beginning. So we're going to go back, just skip back to episode 2, because episode 3 has already come out. I didn't get to recap episode 2 as much as I would have liked to. But in episode 2, Kelsey had organized that winery date, and Rula was supposed to be there. But Rula called during the wine tasting, and she said that she was actually at the hospital not feeling well, so she didn't end up coming. Now, I heard a lot of people question this and be like, well, she had a full face of makeup. How did she have a full face of makeup when she was in the hospital? You guys, I'm Middle Eastern. I might not be Arabic or Lebanese, but I'm Persian. And trust me, Persian women go to bed with a full face of makeup. Like, if their makeup isn't done before going to bed, they make sure. Now, I'm obviously kind of like exaggerating here, but it's like you could be going to the grocery store. Middle Eastern women look their best at all times, going to the gym, going to sleep, going to the washroom. Even if you're staying home for the day, they're like Slavic women. They always take care of themselves, especially the face. This is just a Middle Eastern thing. So I didn't find out that weird that she had a full face of makeup. yeah, she's not going to go to hospital looking like shit, Heaven forbid someone snaps a photo of her. And this is just what Middle Eastern people think, especially the women. Like, and that's the stigma. They're beautiful. Middle Eastern women are beautiful, yeah, because they're consistently taking care of themselves and they always have a full face of makeup. Just saying, okay? Joe Ellen had felt a bit ambushed by Rula potentially coming when Kelsey had told her. And although Rula never showed up, this had rubbed Joe Ellen the wrong way. And then Joe Ellen had explained to the group, after she found out that Rula wasn't coming, that Rula's husband, Brian, actually started calling Joe Ellen's workplace and her husband's workplace to tell their bosses about the pictures with the mistress and that Joe Ellen was the one throwing this around. I was like, what the hell? That's kind of weird. That is crossing a line. If you have issues with someone, that's one thing. But like, let me say this first, because I know sometimes I just go off on these tangents. If you see people online and they are, and I've seen this happen so many times, someone says a negative comment online, and then the person that account it is that the negative comment was on, they go and they search and they end up finding the person that wrote that comment, and that person ends up being like a school teacher. And what they do is they take that comment, and let's say it was like a fat phobic comment, and they send it to the school that that person works at, and they don't know this person. This person's just leaving negative comments on their photos or whatever. And I've seen that happen. Do I agree with it? I mean, if you guys aren't friends and you don't know that person, why are you leaving negative comments on their social medias, especially as a school teacher? Because when you're a school teacher, you learn, or you try to teach your kids to not bully, or do you? Because now that has me questioning. I see all these school teachers leaving negative comments on random social media accounts or social media accounts of people that they don't like. It's like, so maybe the kids that learn bullying or that are allowed to continue to bully are learning it from their teachers or their adults that are in their lives. Because if a teacher's doing it, how is she not stopping the students that are doing it, right? So I see in cases like that how the workplace is called. But when there's an issue like this, where it has to do with a mistress, some photos on social media, and you guys are actually friends with that person, to call their workplace is like, but way below the belt. Like, you couldn't have gone to them face to face and talked to them. You had to call their work. What does how they make money have anything to do with you fucking cheating on your wife and the photos getting out? That's giving like he could potentially be guilty and he's trying to hush whoever talks about it, but went about it totally the wrong way. And now it's coming even more to light, and it's just going to make him look even worse. I'm sorry, Rula. I like you. Don't really like your husband. And the decision, he's really bad at making good decisions. And I don't know if you want to be with somebody like that. Okay. At that same winery, Alicia had asked Liz about the rumors with Dino, who's Liz's friend. Liz was a bit taken back when this question was asked by Alicia. Liz says that she was taken aback by this because Alicia had grown up with not only her, but also with Dino, and she should know that this was false. There's a couple things that I feel, there's a couple opinions, I should say, that I have about this. First one is, I understand how Liz would think, why would Alicia be the one asking me this? Because Alicia's the one that's close to me and she knows the situation. But then there's another part of me that says, perhaps because you're on a show together, Alicia was having your back and saying, just bring it up because it's no big deal. Let me just bring it up because there's nothing else really like that Alicia, knew or wanted to talk about. She's like, let's just bring this up so we can nip it in the butt and move past it. Because I've heard through various other podcasts and sources that Liz knew that this was going to get brought up. Okay. So, Jerry would actually be the one calling Dino. Okay. This is what Liz is saying. The reason that she was upset with Alicia bringing this up, because Alicia should know this whole background of the story, that Jerry, Liz's husband, was the one that actually called Dino asking him to take care of Liz when he was going out of town, because they're all friends. They're all a big group of friends. And the reason that Jerry would be going out of town is because, and I think I mentioned this in the other podcast, is my other episode, is that he would go sport fishing. And so that would, the times that he would do his sport fishing, he would be gone for 3 weeks out of the month. And so, he knows that, Liz is a little bit maybe more needy. So he's like, hey, just make sure that you look out for her, make sure that she's okay. All right. Cool. If that's the friendship that they had and you have your friends looking out for her for whatever reason, like maybe mental health or just, so she doesn't get bored or just to keep her company because, I'm going to be gone for 3 weeks. Cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If the couple involved has no issue with this, I'm not sure why anybody else on the planet should. Okay? We'll get into this after because I'm just going through what happened at the winery that day. Okay. Now, at the same winery wine tasting event, Kelsey admits that she's not in a polygamous relationship because polygamy is where you're married, but she did admit that she was in a polyamorous relationship. Polyamorous means when you're dating multiple people. So she has her main boyfriend, which we found out was Frank Caprio's son, Judge Frank Caprio, that just recently passed away. The son's name is John. So that's who Kelsey's, I don't want to say sugar daddy, but one of her boyfriends is. And then come episode 3, because she does admit that she has another boyfriend. So she has 2 boyfriends, not just John. But then we meet the other boyfriend, whose name is Bill. Now, before we get into Bill, his name's actually William. I don't know why they call Williams Bill. Why don't they just call them Will? I want to call him Will because he doesn't look like a Bill. It's just a weird, like Bill looks like an old person's name and William looks kind of young. But anyways, Bill. Okay? We're introduced to Bill in episode 3. Kelsey loves John Caprio, the main boyfriend, the one that has all the money and gives her the place and the 72 TVs. But you always got to give a little and get a little. And, you know, it's not always as perfect as it seems. You can't have it all. Okay? Because unfortunately for her, she has everything but his whole heart, which is what she really wants. She has the house. She has the lifestyle. She's alone 6 months. I've said this in my other previous podcast. Can you imagine being alone 6 months out of the year, but you have all that? This is, again, stuff that I've mentioned before. I know so many friends, and I live in, or from Canada, right now living in Mexico, but I had so many friends that their husbands would go work on the oil rigs in Alberta. And if you're Canadian, you're going to understand this. Or they're fishermen, or they work for the docks. For customs on the docks and on those boats, you know, those freight boats, and they travel, the cargo ships, they go and they come back, right? They're gone for weeks on end, and their relationships are a lot better and withstand a lot better. Look at Hannah Berner and Des Bishop. They always are saying about how they don't always, I mean, they live together now, but they're always on the road and they don't see each other as often. So when they come together, it's a lot better. I've mentioned this before. I'm going to be 42 this year. At this age in my life, if I want somebody, I don't necessarily have to be attached to them by the hip, but it's because I want to be with that person. So me not being with them for 2 months or 2 weeks out of the month is not going to work for me at this age. But I can see how people that have been together for a long time, how being apart from each other really will make you a lot stronger in the end, you know? It's just the perfect break that the relationship needs without actually going on a break, you know? So I can just imagine how she has it so perfect. Like, I'm looking at it from the outside in and I'm like, damn, that's like the perfect setup. But for her, she wants a family. She's still young. She wants to have kids. John already has kids. John has been divorced. John has an ex-wife. And in fact, where his father was a judge, that entire law firm, plus some of his family, like his sisters and stuff, have all come and made statements that they don't have any comment about what's going on and what Kelsey is doing, and they're just going to allow the season to play out. No comment. And I thought that was kind of nice, because usually, like, when stuff like this comes out, you see people making, and I had just posted this on one of my socials. For example, Rachel Zoe's ex-husband's new girlfriend, she came out and she said something, and she had her own opinion about Rachel talking about her on the TV show. But when it comes to this particular family, they're allowing Kelsey to just be, and they're keeping their mouth shut. And I think that's commendable. They have been together for 10 years. I think that's what I thought I said 6 years or 10 years. I wasn't sure, but it's confirmed 10 years. And I think at that point, you get to know the person really well. And she doesn't say anything bad. She hasn't said nothing bad. In fact, if anything, she's been so quite honest. You know, I haven't heard her say one bad thing. In fact, we've heard her say that she loves him and that she wishes that he was ready to settle down with her, but he's not. So she has to start thinking outside of the box. So it's nice to see the level of honesty that is coming out of the entire situation that she's sort of chatted about, which is her life. And it seems like everything that's coming out about her life seems to confirm what she's already said. So she's not lying. And it's kind of interesting for us as Bravo fans to see the honesty, because usually it takes seasons for this to happen. And this is kind of happening in their second and third episode. So it's nice to see. That's what I'm trying to say. It's great to see. I feel like she obviously wants the lifestyle. She wants the goods from men like Bill, aka the sperm for the kids. But to me, it's giving also a little bit more of a daughter-father relationship, because I feel like if John really loved her, he would want to give her these things. There's no doubt that he loves her, but if he loved her more and really loved her like as a spouse, rather than this is just a girl that I'm taking care of, I think he would give her those, despite him already having it on his own. I've seen many people in their third, fourth, fifth marriage still continue to have kids or skip a couple of marriages. And then if the new wife really wants a kid, they'll do it, So that's where I feel bad for Kelsey. Okay. I think he likes to take care of her, but if he really, 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 really loved her, he would do it for her. I just don't think that really, 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 really amount of love is there. But it's nice to see her being honest about it, that she really, really, really does love him, but she has to think outside the box, because she still has needs that need to be met, such as having kids. So that's that. Okay. So that was episode 2. That was the main juice of episode 2. Now we get into episode 3. Alicia invites Liz over and says, listen, at the winery, when I asked about Dino, I didn't mean to put you in the spot. It was just a question because people ask questions. And it was more to help you since there's no secrets. And this is exactly what I assumed. I don't see Alicia with a bad bone in her body. In fact, Alicia then gets into how she's been common law with her common law husband, Bill, for almost 11 years. They've been engaged for 9 years, as her daughter is 8 years old. So they've been together for 11 years. At the 2-year mark, he proposed. And then at the 3-year mark, they had their daughter. And they've just been common law since. But she hasn't seen really any good. So now that they've been just common law, she hasn't seen many relationships last. So she's like, why should we take that extra step when we've been good for 11 years, exactly the way that we are? And I know so many couples that are like this too. It's like they don't want to put it in paper, whether they already have or have not prior. They would just rather leave it the way that it is, because if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? There's people that love renovating, and there's people that just leave shit the way that it is, because if you leave it, you might not see the problems perk up. Doesn't matter which one. If it works for them, it works for them. She's always loved being a stay-at-home mom, and she loves that the husband works. But one thing that she didn't like, and that she's starting to notice, that when she has to ask for money, it's getting to a stage in her life where she feels like maybe she's a little bit too old to be asking, or like she's pulling teeth by asking, because it's starting to come with a little bit of resistance from the husband, and she hates having to ask for money when she needs it. And so this is kind of provoking thoughts in her head that maybe she should start her own business, or, well, being on the Housewives of Rhode Island is definitely going to help her, because that's going to put her in a direction where she's able to make her own money should anything go south in the future, and ask less from Bill. But what is really weird and a huge red flag is that he didn't want her name on the house. And that is weird, because that's the mother of your child. Why would you not want her to walk away with at least something? And I hate when men let their wives be stay-at-home wives, and then 12, 13, 14 years down the road when the kids are all grown up, use it, well, you did nothing, everything's mine. They raised the kids. And they were at home cooking you dinner every fucking night that you were home. So how dare you say that they did nothing? Definitely sensing resentment coming out from him, even though he hasn't really said it, but from the way that she's describing it, that's resentment. And I know a lot of men women too, that are the main caregiver or the main moneymaker, and then they build resentment over their spouse, because after the kids are all grown and whatever, they still don't work. And they're like, well, I'm out working all the time and they're doing nothing, or so they think, right? So resentment starts to build. And this is why I always encourage my own daughter, hey, if you meet someone that's willing to pay for everything, great, but you still continue to make your own money. Have an account. Don't just stop making money. Have your own account. Don't have a secret account. Just have your own account. If he's willing to pay for things, great. You can pitch in here and there. But then that way, if things go south, you still always have your own money, and always have separate bank accounts. This is things that I tell her. And for me, it's because I've seen situations like this on the Housewives many, many times where I've seen this happen, and not coming from experience, just because I've had parents that divorced, friends that have divorced, housewives. Like I take these things and I learn, and I'm like, wow, okay, so if I ever enter a marriage or like a common law, make sure that I have something written down. We go to the lawyers, a prenup of some sort, so that we know what's entitled or what we're entitled to. To be honest, and I'm digressing, I feel like if I ever get into a relationship like that, I would really still want my own place. Because unless I'm 1000% sure that this is the person that I want to be with, I'm 40, I'll be 42 this year. I'm okay being alone for however much longer I need to until I'm for sure. But having my own space is imperative. And even if like we move into a bigger space, have like a girl nook, a guy nook where it's like all my things, and I can kind of just do my own thing. I think that'd be nice as well. Then in episode 3, you see that Rula has a Lebanese lunch, and she's really honest with her, Middle Eastern friends about her situation, and that's nice to see. And it's nice to see that she has somebody or people there that she can talk to, because it seems like she can't really go to the group because she's feeling like they're judging her. I don't think the group's judging her at all. That's just my opinion, seeing it as a viewer. I don't even think Joe Ellen is judging her. I think if anything, they're trying to really look out for her. But again, she doesn't feel safe in that setting. So with her Middle Eastern friends, great. She has this shtick about Joe Ellen. And again, she thinks that Joe Ellen wants to spread these rumors. But as we see a little bit further down, I think Joe Ellen knows something that is still not brought to our knowledge quite yet, because she says that Brian's still cheating. So we'll get there. Liz is throwing Jerry a Studio 54 party for his 54th birthday. This is the second time we're seeing a Studio 54 party, because did we not just see Rachel Zoe have one, I believe, for her 50th? Or I don't know. She didn't say what age, but could be her 54th as well, because actually I was going to Google how old she was, because she doesn't like to talk about her age. But I'm surprised someone like Rachel Zoe doesn't like to talk about her age, because she looks great. Of course, she looks older, but not old like an old woman. She just looks like she's not in her 20s or 30s, and that's fine. Like, I just stopped wearing I haven't gotten Botox since I moved to Mexico. Part of it is a money thing, and part of it just, like I've mentioned this before in some of my podcast episodes, I just kind of want to reset from the beginning and really strip myself bare and see who I really am without all the external things. And am I going to get Botox again? Of course. Will I get my lashes done again? Maybe, I've been growing out my nails, but I'm still, one thing I really want to do is get my nails done again. Like, I love it, right? I don't feel like I need to get my lashes done, but if I do, cool. But, and I know I've digressed and I'm talking about Rachel Zoe here, but I feel like she should embrace it rather than kind of push it away, because we all know that you act young and that you are not as old as perhaps you are mentally, you know what I mean? Like, so it's okay. Like, I feel like when you kind of hide it, it draws more attention to it. Like, now I'm going to go Google it to try to find out, But anyways, I digress. We were talking about the Studio 54 party. Now I kind of want to have one myself. And Joellen and Gary, who's her husband, and then Rula and Brian are going to be there. So this is going to be interesting. So everyone starts showing up. Rula and Brian show up. Almost everyone's there already. Even Dolores and Paulie are there. Bill also shows up, who's the Bill that shows up is Kelsey's second boyfriend, but also he's good friends with Jerry. So Kelsey made it a point to say that this is not the hard launch, and they're not even there together as a couple. They're there because Bill knows Jerry. Not too sure why that was so relevant to say, but okay, cool. Thank you for letting us know. I do like Kelsey, but, a little bit of information that perhaps we do not need to know. Joellen tells Rula that they should talk as soon as Joellen literally arrives. It appears, who knows how production kind of framed it, but it appears like she just, let's chat right away, get this elephant out of the room. Because there's definitely one in the middle of it. So Brian and Rula sit down with Gary and Joellen. And Brian called Joellen's work and also sent an email to Joellen's HR department. I've also already said that that's kind of bizarre. It's kind of fucking weird. Then they get into how Joellen wasn't the one that was spreading the rumors. It was already out there. Joellen just saw the photos, and the photos were also already out there because the mistress posted them. Joellen not only gave the photos to Rula, but yeah, she showed it around to the girls that are in their friend group. So you can tell that this hurt comes from because they were friends that Rula probably felt a certain way about Joellen telling anybody, like she had wanted to stay amongst them. But I don't think that that's Joellen's fault. Now, had Joellen went and told the entire world, that's one thing. Giving it to like gossip mags and stuff. It's the mistress that I feel like Rula should really be mad at, because she's the one that, and Brian, yes, because he was okay with her taking a photo in the first place, and then she goes and she posts it on her social media. And from what I know about Rhode Island, I've said this in my previous podcast, it's a small fucking island. People are going to find out. So Rula didn't appreciate that Joellen went and showed more people than just her. Okay, understandable. I get it. This stems from them having a prior friendship. And so, boundaries were crossed. She thought that they would be more friends in that aspect. I think that in that sense, Joellen should maybe take a little bit of accountability. I get it. A little bit of accountability and saying, like, I get it, Rula. I get it. Like, you didn't want me to show people, even though it was already out there. My intention wasn't to go spread it, But in Joellen's defense, she says that it's still going on. And she doesn't want to see Rula blindsided again. So that's where that frustration comes from. And Rula says, you keep talking about it, you keep perpetuating these rumors, even though it's done with. And Joellen's like, no, Rula, it's not done with. It's still going on. So again, it seems like they did have a friendship prior, which is where all this hurt is coming from on both ends. Because you could tell that Joellen was pretty passionate and heated when she had found out that Rula might show up. And Rula has some words to say about Joellen. And you don't usually have these sort of strong feelings if you didn't really care about the person. Like, it comes from a place of hurt. So the constant talking about it and proving where it comes from, and that it comes from Joellen. But Joellen even swore on her kids that this affair is still going on. And what's the red flag in all of this is that Brian didn't even shut it down. I feel sad for Rula. All signs are still pointing to Brian still cheating. And I agree with Rula, because after you could see them get into the car, they left shortly after, or again, so production framed it that way. I'm not too sure why he wouldn't shut it down. And you could see there's tension in the car. Like, they weren't even talking. They were just kind of like fuming. I think at that point, they know that there's cameras there, so they're not going to open their mouth. Rula has a really good way of kind of like, I'm pretty reactive, but she has a really good way of kind of maintaining her composure. But she was frustrated that Brian wouldn't even shut her down, even in a respectful way, like just fucking shut her down. But he didn't. So major red flag, in my opinion. There's still some cheating going on. Okay. This part was fascinating. Kelsey and Liz get into it. Because Liz said that she wanted to go to the seawall with Jerry and Dino. And says, you know what, if people see us all three together and the dynamic that we have, it's going to put a lot of the rumors and the shit talking to rest. Because they're going to see how the dynamic works. All three of us are together. We're all actually really good friends. Kelsey disagreed. Liz gets upset. Liz storms off. Liz has some choice words. She's like, you were never my fucking friend, Kelsey. This is not how you act to your friends, etc., etc., etc. It appears that maybe Kelsey and Dino had something going on. Now, I'm not saying it was sexual, and I'm saying allegedly had something going on. Because when they asked Liz, what's the story between Kelsey and Dino, Liz says, that's something that you should ask Kelsey. So we shall see in the upcoming episodes. Now, this is where it gets kind of spicy. There's a lot of things coming out about this Dino guy, okay? So the first thing that's come out is that there's a connection with this Dino guy and Aaron Hernandez. And we all know Aaron Hernandez is the football player who, went to jail, went to prison, and he killed himself in prison. He self-harmed, let's just say, in prison. So there's a connection between Dino and Aaron Hernandez. This Dino guy, Dino Giulmetti, I'm sorry if I butchered that. Let's just say Dino G. He has a child with Aaron Hernandez's ex, Shayana Jenkins. They had their baby together in 2018. So that's how he's linked to Aaron Hernandez. And it's not even that great of a link, but I'm just saying this guy is, known. And how he knew Aaron is, it says, allegedly, that he was former college teammates of Aaron's. So that's how they kind of knew each other within the same circle. And that's how Shayana gets with him. Now, Dino looks a lot older than Aaron Hernandez, but it could be that Aaron's been dead for quite some time and like people age. And I still remember Aaron as being maybe 8 years younger. So anyways, That's one thing that I've heard. Now, there's other allegations stirring, and I'm going to say allegations, and I don't want to get too into it. I like to look at these shows from a social aspect of it, the criminal stuff, and no one's been charged, I don't think, or they have been, but it hasn't come out quite yet. I just kind of want to see it unfold on the show, and then I'll have an opinion more about it. But allegedly, there are rumors out there as well that there's an alleged, and I want to keep saying the word allegedly, that there's a cocaine ring involved with Liz and Dino. And that Liz has been giving Dino money for this importation of cocaine of sorts, allegedly. And she's getting profit from this transaction, allegedly. These are the rumors that are stirring out in the world, allegedly. So I'm unsure of how we went through. There could be a perhaps inappropriate relationship between Dino and Liz to now there is a drug smuggling ring, allegedly, amongst them. And I saw it on one guy's Instagram/TikTok, and he had court documents and everything. I'm going to keep saying allegedly because, we're just getting to know them. And just the Aaron Hernandez connection already in itself is quite interesting. But if this is true, dang. If this allegations are true, Liz is going to give us a run for this franchise. We are invested. We are so invested. And to be honest, I'm kind of on her side. Like, I want to see her go through all of this and come out even better because she's so honest. She's so authentic. She's so a good person. Looks a little bit like Dolores. And I know people are like, oh my God, do they have the same surgeon? Yes, episode 1, they said that Dolores gave her their surgeon information. So, here we are. They look alike. I think really the only thing that kind of made them look alike is the way that the eyebrows go up, But the dark skin, it's not like she darkened her skin. She's always kind of had dark skin, just like Dolores. So there are similarities there. But Liz is my favorite. I'm going to just say it. Liz is my favorite. I don't care what drug smuggling allegedly she's involved in. I don't care what she's done with Dino. One thing I love about her is that she's very authentic, and I love people like that. And I did post their taglines. You can go on the socials and check that out, the Pursuit of Happiness pod. And I kept Liz at the front because she's my favorite. So that is, guys, that is the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. That's just episode 3. I think Jersey has a lot of making up to do. Because, if Jersey doesn't explode like we wanted to, I feel like it could say goodbye because we have now Rhode Island. And I'm good with Rhode Island. Like, I'm just pissed that I gotta wait another week for another episode to come out. Like, I'm almost like, should I stop watching and then just binge at the end? Because, like, I'm going to get so frustrated in the time that I have to wait. But it kind of makes it fun again because it's been a while since I've had to wait for shows to come out, But anyways, I'm going to leave it at that. What a great franchise. And if you guys are not watching, you need to go and watch it. Real Housewives of Rhode Island. I'm going to leave it at there. I was going to do Real Housewives of Atlanta, guys, but we're already at almost an hour. I don't want to keep boring you guys and just yapping. So I'll come out with another episode for Atlanta. Pursuers, thanks for listening. If you aren't following yet, please go like, subscribe, share, follow, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere that you can find your podcast. Please drop a comment. Let me know how you're liking it. Give me your thoughts. You can leave me a voicemail if you go to the Pursuit of Happiness NAS.com, which is my website. Go under podcast. There's an area where you can leave me a voicemail. Find me on my socials. Follow me on the socials, Pursuit of Happiness Pod. I'm on TikTok for the podcast and on Instagram. I'd love to just get your guys' feedback, see how you're liking the shows. With that being said, Pursuers, thank you so much. Just to give you a heads up, next week I will be on the road for about a week. So I'm going to try to put out as many episodes and content as I can this week. But next week I will watch the shows, but the content might not come out to the following week because, again, I will be on the road. I'm not too sure how I'm going to structure, how I'm going to be able to watch and record. So there might be a little week or 5 to 6 days where I'm unable to put out a podcast or content. So just keep that in mind. I am not disappearing. I'm just traveling. With that being said, I will come back tomorrow with Real Housewives of Atlanta. Have a good night, Pursuers.